Good morning, children. Welcome back to the another online class of social science. And children, today we will start with second chapter of history, which is from trade to territory. And in this chapter, we will discuss that how East India Company that entered into India for trading became a ruler of our country. Now let's begin the topic. So, children, Aurangzeb was the last of the powerful Mughal rulers. After Aurangzeb, there were 6 Mughal rulers also, but they were not as powerful as the previous Mughal rulers like Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Shah Jahan, and these later Mughals were not able to control their territories and kingdoms. And in the second half of the 18th century, a new power was came, which were British, and they started controlling the territories of Mughal Empire. Now, how British came to our country, how they started the controlling of the territories of Mughal Empire, and other rulers that we are going to discuss. Now, let's start with the first topic. East India Company comes east. In 1600, the East India Company acquired a charter. Charter means a written grant or a written document from Queen Elizabeth I, which grant the East India Company the sole right to trade in East. And with this charter or with this document, the company had no fear of competition, as no other company of England could trade in East except the East India Company. So they got the permission from Queen Elizabeth to trade in eastern part of the Asia. With this charter, company could venture across new ocean, looking new lands for goods at cheaper rate such as spices, silk and cotton clothes, and sell them at higher price in Europe. But children, it was not easy for East India Company to trade in East, because when East India Company entered India, it found some competitors who were already trading. They were Portuguese, French, and they already started their trading companies or opened their trading companies in our country. So the Portuguese who entered India in the year 1498, and Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese, discovered the route of our country. When Vasco da Gama discovered the sea route to India and reached Calicut, which is now known as Kolkata, even the Dutch arrived in Pulicat in 1595. Then came the French in Pondicherry in year 1664. This created a huge problem as the goods became more expensive, resulting into less earning for the East India Company, because there were the competition for East India Company. Portuguese, Dutch, French were already trading in our country, and because of that the product became expensive and they were not getting the profit. So what did company do then? In order to safeguard its interest or their profit, each and every trading company entered into a trade war. They started a trade war. Then how they started the trade war? They started sinking ships of their rivals, blocked routes, and fortified their trading post. This also led to conflict with the local rulers. So, in this way, the East India Company finally able to control the trading routes of our country, because they defeated their rivals like Portuguese, French, and Dutch. Now, how they conflict with the local rulers, that we are going to discuss now. East India Company begins trade in Bengal. This is our next topic. So, in the year 1651, the first English factory was set up on the banks of River Hooghly, and the first factory was set up in Surat, which is in Gujarat. Then the Mughal king Aurangzeb issued a farman. What is farman? A royal order which granted the company the right to trade duty free. But the East India Company, was not satisfied with the grant which was given to them by Aurangzeb. They tried to press for more concession and manipulate the existing privileges. The unfair practice of trade gradually led to battles. Now, how did the trade lead to battles? That we are going to discuss. After the death of Aurangzeb in 1707, the Bengal Nawabs asserted their power and autonomy. They refused to grant the company any concession which was earlier given by Aurangzeb when he was alive. So the later Nawabs refused to grant the company any more concession, which led to the battles. Now let us discuss about the battles which took place between Indian rulers and Britishers. So in 1756, Sirajuddaulah became Nawab of Bengal after the death of his grandfather Alverdi Khan. Alverdi Khan, when he was the Nawab of Bengal, ordered Britishers to pay revenue and stop fortification, and also with the help of his 30,000 soldiers, Alverdi Khan captured the official of the English factory at Qasim Bazar and also established his control over Calcutta's fort. All these incidents resulted into Battle of Plassey, in which Robert Clive, an army officer in East India Company, defeated Sirajuddaulah. But children, what was the main reason behind the defeat of Sirajuddaulah? Because he was not the weak Nawab, but he was defeated in the Battle of Plassey, and the main reason behind his defeat was that the army led by Commander Mir Zafar took part in the battle because Zafar was promised by Robert Clive that he would become the next Nawab of next Nawab of Bengal when if the Britishers would win the battle. So Mir Zafar became Nawab of Bengal after the Battle of Plassey because Sirajuddaulah was defeated in Battle of Plassey by Robert Clive. The company was granted undisputed right to free trade in Bengal by Mir Zafar. But what happened, children? After some time, when Nawab refused further right, Mir Zafar refused further rights to Britishers. So what Britishers did? Mir Zafar was dethroned by Britishers, and now the next Nawab was Mir Qasim. And after again, same thing happened. After some time, Mir Qasim also started complaining of the misuse of the powers given to the company, which led to the Battle of Buxar, which took place in 1764. So after this, once again, Mir Zafar came to the throne as Nawab of Bengal. This time, he was asked to pay rupees 5 lakh per month to the East India Company, but this was insufficient as it wanted more money to finance its war. Who wanted? East India Company wanted more money to finance their wars. When Mir Zafar died in 1765, the company decided of becoming Nawab itself. They thought that they would not make any Nawab of Indian origin. They themselves would become the Nawab of Indian territory. So in year 1765, the Mughal emperor declared company as the Diwan of Bengal province. The revenue it received through Diwani was of a great help as they could now be used for buying cotton and silk and also building forts. This income was also important because after the Battle of Plassey, the income inflow from Britain had slowed down. So what income they got from the Diwani, they used that income to buy silk and other products, as well as they started building their forts in different part of the company. Now we'll see the company officials become nabobs. Let's move forward to the next topic. Company officials become nabobs. As the company acquired more power and authority, the company officials began to imagine themselves as Nawabs, because company officials also wanted to lead a luxurious life like Nawabs of India. So many of the company officials were given huge land and money by the local rulers. Why rulers given money and land to British officials? Because they just wanted to avoid any conflict with the company, and because they have seen the result of the Sirajuddaulah Alverdi Khan and of later Mughals. So like that only they have given their lands and money to to East India Company's official. So Robert Clive, before becoming governor of Bengal in 1764, had become very rich in India. Because of this, he was cross-examined by the British Parliament also in 1772, because the Parliament was suspicious of his vast wealth, because all those officials, those who came to our country, they just given the salaries by the Britishers. So when Robert Clive became rich or acquired a vast wealth in our country, so he was cross-examined by the British Parliament, and finally he was acquitted from all the charges laid against him, but he committed suicide in 1774. Now let's move to the next topic. Company rule expands. East India Company had a different way of expanding its rule in India. It rarely launched direct military attack on any Indian territory. It used a variety of political and economic methods to extend its influence. For example, it appointed residents in Indian states after Battle of Buxar. So let's see what it did. First, now the question arises, who were these residents? Residents were the political agents of the Britishers who served the interest of the company. Though they were Indians, but they worked for the Britishers. Through them, the company started interfering in the internal affairs of the Indian states. Whether it was the matter of a Nawab or of any ruler, but East India Company started interfering in the internal matters of the Indian states or Indian ruler. One such interference was subsidiary alliance. And what was subsidiary alliance? According to this, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed force. Means no Indian ruler can have their own army. They had to keep company's army and pay their maintenance. Means they had to keep the company's army, and to the company's army Indian ruler would give the salary or pay. If they failed to do so, the part of their territory was taken away as penalty by the Britishers. In 1801, Lord Wellesley forced Nawab of Awadh to give over half of his territory due to non-payment of the maintenance to the British army. Same happened with the Hyderabad also. So Britishers forced Indian ruler to maintain Britishers army and to pay them. If any Indian ruler was not able to do so, so what Britishers did, they acquired the territory of that ruler. Now let's move forward to the next topic. Tipu Sultan, the tiger of Mysore. Now we'll discuss what happened in the part of southern India, especially Mysore. So the company started facing threat both politically and economically from Mysore, where Tipu Sultan was the ruler. Mysore had grown into a strong state under King Hyder Ali Khan and under Tipu Sultan, who was the son of King Hyder Ali, and he was very strong ruler in the southern Indian state of Mysore. So in 1785, Tipu Sultan controlled the trade of Malabar coast and stopped the export of pepper, sandalwood and cardamom from his ports. He also stopped local merchants to deal with Britishers, and to modernize his army, Tipu Sultan also employed French to his army. And children, with this, Britishers became furious and tried to suppress the power of Mysore. So what they did? For this, 4 wars were fought between Britishers and Mysore in year of 1767 to 69, second war in 1780 to 84, third 1789 to 92, and fourth and the final war in the year 1799, and all are known as the Anglo-Mysore War. Tipu Sultan was killed in the war of 1799, in the last war at Srirangapatnam. Now, Vodiyars became king of Mysore with the condition of subsidiary alliance. After the problem at Mysore was sorted off, a new problem arose, the Marathas. So now you can see that there were several issues for East India Company in different parts of India which were affecting its trade. Now let's move forward to the next topic, war with the Marathas and what happened in that war. So in the late 18th century, the company started facing problems from the Marathas who were aiming to rule over India through Delhi, which was taken as the seat of power in India. And there were many wars fought between Britishers and between Marathas. For example, the Second Anglo-Maratha War, which fought in 1803 to 1805, resulted into the Britishers gaining control over Orissa, north of Yamuna, including Agra and Delhi. The Third Anglo-Maratha War totally crushed the Maratha power, and Britishers got complete control over the territories of Marathas south of the Vindhyas. So we can say that the company had pursued aggressively in territorial expansion, and now they wanted something more, and that was supremacy on whole India. So from one territory to the other territory, they started controlling, they led the wars, and they became the indirect ruler of that territories. Now what they did after this, that we are going to discuss under the next topic, the claim of paramountcy. So children, East India Company under the leadership of Lord Hastings, who was the Governor General in the year 1813 to 1823, initiated a policy of paramountcy. Paramountcy means supreme power. Here please make it clear that Lord Hastings and Warren Hastings were two different persons. So don't get confused with the name, with the surname Hastings. Lord Hastings is a other person and Warren Hastings was a other person. So in order to become a paramount or supreme power, Britishers started annexation. Annexation means merging, controlling of different territories of India. During this process of annexation, they also faced some resistance at some places, like Rani Chinnamma, the Queen of Kittur, Karnataka, led an anti-British resistance movement, though she was finally arrested in 1824 and she was died in prison only. And in late 1830s, the company became worried about Russia, who it thought could give a tough competition to the company. For this, it tried to secure the northwest frontier of India by fighting a prolonged war with Afghanistan between 1838 to 1842, and established an indirect rule there. It also took over Sindh in 1843. Even Punjab, which Britishers were not able to annex during the reign of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, was finally won over by the British in 1849. Now we know that the most of the India was under control of Britishers because of their policy of annexation. Annexation means merging. They started merging the different territories or states of our country from north to east, from south to west. And they also used political method of annexation. So in next topic we will discuss about the doctrine of lapse. Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General of India, started a policy of doctrine of lapse, and under this policy, if any Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would be the part of company's territory. And through this doctrine of lapse, they captured Jhansi and Satara, Udaipur, Nagpur, and many other part. And you must have read about the story of Queen Jhansi, which fought against the British rule, but finally she was defeated, and that Jhansi was captured by Lord Dalhousie or East India Company. Now let's move forward to the next topic. So now let's move forward to the next topic, setting up a new administration. So children, Warren Hastings divided administration of British East India Company into 3 presidencies, namely Bombay, Madras and Bengal. He also codified laws with the help of Hindu Pandits and Muslim Muftis in order to do justice as per the prevailing laws in India. He also established courts such as criminal court and civil court, which were known as Diwani at that time, and also appointed collectors to collect revenue and maintain law and order. The Britishers were done with both annexation and administration of Indian territories. Now they felt the need of an army. So how they maintained their army, that we are going to discuss from our next topic. Company army. The new British administration or official brought some new ideas of administration, but like any other ruler or like any other administration, the power of Britishers will also depend on a strong army. So for this they started recruiting Indian peasants. Peasant means small people, those who work small work like farming, or those who work as a casual laborers and workers to their own army, just like Mughal army. So Britishers army also had cavalry consisting of both savars. Savars means soldiers on horseback, and pedals, uh, foot soldiers of the time. And children, these soldiers were trained in archery and sword fighting, but with the passage of time, new warfare techniques were also introduced, such as muskets, which were heavy guns, and matchlocks, which were the guns ignited by the match. There rose a need of developing new techniques among Indian soldiers with uniformity and discipline, which sometimes was against the community feeling of the Indian spoil. This created a discontent among Indian soldiers, which in 1857 became one of the reasons of revolt against Britishers. Which about the revolt of 1857, how it was started and what was the result of that revolt, you will read in next chapter. Reached to the end of the chapter. After going through the content of this chapter, we come to the conclusion that it is right to say that a company known as East India Company that entered India in order to trade finally gained power over the territories of India and became a ruler of our country, and Britishers ruled in our country around 200 years. So children, that's all for today's class. With this video you will get the question answer of this chapter. If already you have done that question answers, then no need to repeat. If in any case you have missed any question, then that particular question you can do in your notebook. And that's all for today's class. Keep learning all the question answers and prepare well for your coming examination. All the best. Thank you.